I'm live. Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. I
I
guess.
see you.
Okay. Hi. All right. I'll give it a couple, I guess like a minute or two, and then I can start.
Okay, I'll see you on there.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, bye.
Bye. All right. It's going to give it a couple more seconds, and then I will get started. Hello. Hello, I am Kierra Caitlin, and I am the founder of Capital Keys LLC. I'm super excited to be talking on this platform today about what my version of art is. So art for me is flipping and designing and doing things with real estate. That is what I do. So I'll tell you a little bit about Capital Keys just so you get a kind of understanding of what we're doing and how this is the art of a flip. So I created Capital Keys in 2019, and we are an investment company. We work primarily with flips, and we also offer full service designs and project manager services for investors who may live, out of town, because I'm primarily set in Atlanta, Georgia. I purchased my first flip in 2019 when I started the company, and so far I have designed and created 5 projects. So I'm really excited to kind of go into detail about how I work, how I get started, and everything. I love design. I've loved creating things, and I've always, been a really big fan of the feng shui and the art behind design. So today I'm going to kind of show you my step-by-step design process and everything that I do from there. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments and we can talk like that. So let me add this slide in here. 1 second. All right. Oops. Awesome. So the first step that I do when I'm looking for a redesign is I do the initial walkthrough of the inside and the outside of the house. It seems simple enough, but it's something that I feel like a lot of people don't always do is a thorough walkthrough. And I'll do a walkthrough by myself, just kind of seeing how the house feels and seeing where the light's hitting throughout the windows and what's going on, even if it is still occupied, just trying to imagine what the potential that the place has. And I'll take a nice detailed walkthrough all the way around. And then I will also do the outside and see if there's anything that I can do from there. So that would be, maybe adding a porch outside, a deck, something like that, just to get like a visual idea. And I'll kind of take those ideas and this is my process, is just, I do a lot of hand motioning, and that's me visualizing, where things can go, what the potential that it has, that makes sense to me. And this is, what goes into the finding the rehab style that works for you. So for me, I love looking for homes that are about 1,300 square feet or bigger, have 2 bathrooms at least, so I don't have to spend a lot of time rearranging the layout of the home and trying to add bathrooms in or, take away a closet to turn into a bathroom. I like having a good foundation that's already there. Something that, if someone's looking to build, a guest house in the back, take into account of the lot size, because there's certain things you can't change. And those are, things that you have to, work with. And then next would be, I spend a lot of time researching the style of the home. So if I have a traditional home, I'm not going to try to throw a bunch of Spanish elements in there or, make it super industrial if that's not the outside of the home, because I like bringing out the charm in the house. There's a reason that this house looks like this. I think that you should stay, in those guidelines as much as possible if you can. It just makes it a lot easier for buyers when they visualize the outside. They're like, wow, this is a cute, charming ranch. So let's bring the outside to the inside. And that is something I really do. And then now we can talk about, sorry about this. It's my first time using Instagram Live. So picking the right home, like I was talking about. So if you have a ranch style home, I like to stick with rustic elements. So that has been me, refinishing doors in the homes, keeping the brass knobs on the door handles, just little things like that I think you can't find nowadays. So it makes more sense to keep them. And then also keeping your colors warm. So that would be warm colors. When you're looking at grays, picking a warm gray instead of picking something that is more like a blue or green tone. You want to pick the brown and the orange grays, because then you can bring out all of the wood feelings and the natural, brown elements that come when you're trying to do something rustic. Traditional, this is where you can kind of have a lot of freedom to do exactly what you want to do when it comes to a traditional home. I try to keep my design process modern, but also traditional, of course. So that would be working with more, I love agreeable gray. It is like the perfect gray. It really does go with everything. I've been using campfire ash. It's actually the color of the walls in here now. I don't know if you can really see, but it is a warm gray. So I'm able to add a lot of other colors of gray into it, because when you use cool grays, sometimes it's hard to match them with warm, but matching a lot of warm colors with anything works out great. So yes, agreeable gray is a great choice. And then a big thing for me is making sure that I spend a lot of time on the outside. That would be the color of the trims. Am I going to do warm trims? Am I going to keep it cool? So that would be like brown tones. I did a home, campfire ash is nice. I did a home that's white on the outside, but instead of picking pure white, I picked a color called milk paint, and it has a little bit more warmth in it. So I was able to do a really dark brown trim around the outside of the house that made it pop, but also kept it looking really clean and fresh, just because I kept the colors in the same family, which is also a really good thing to notice, is keeping all your colors in the same family if you can. They don't have to be the same color, but pick warm yellows with warm grays and warm whites. And also take the samples and literally stand outside in the sun and just look at them, because they look different inside of the store or on the actual outside of the home or the inside than they do in the containers, because things dry differently. So really take your time with picking out the paint colors and everything from there. I also love a pop of color. So I usually put my pop of color on the doors, and a really big trend right now is yellow, oranges, turquoise, even like a nice deep purple would be nice, just so you have something that makes your house stand out on the street. So I definitely been using oranges. I just did a yellow door. I've done a red door before. I'm going to probably eventually do like a royal blue door, because navy blue and royal blues is definitely coming into season. So that is what I have for you on just keeping the theme right for the house. You don't need to do anything crazy. You don't need to, drastically change stuff, but keeping your colors nice will look great in your pictures. It'll also have great resale value, because people can visualize themselves in a blank slate, but also sometimes need a direction of the theme that they need to go to themselves. So this is my favorite part when it comes to flipping, is creating space. This is where I spend most of my time. Designing is just figuring out what to do with space. So that goes to when I said, doing my initial walkthrough inside of the house. I literally walk through the home and I'll just start taking out walls. So if there's a wall right when you walk in and I, knock on it and see that it's not a load-bearing wall or something that, is of dire need for the home, I'll just take it out. So that way I have more flow space, because I'm realizing that the biggest selling point of a home is having open space. People want to be able to see, and have hosting space, entertainment space, and not have a bunch of walls that builds separation. So I like to go in, take out the first wall that I can see, and then, start creating that openness. And I also have gotten into removing doorways. So sometimes in older homes, the doorways are small like this, and I like to open them all the way up. Oops, sorry about that. Open them all the way up so that I get as most space that I possibly can from the doorways, so that when you're walking in, you're not trying to duck your head underneath anything. You really have the time to, walk through, see everything. And sometimes it's not possible to remove the whole doorway or the opening, but you can definitely, open it up for what you need to, and also kind of adjust it from there. I also love adding natural light. So I am a big fan of keeping the lights off for as long as possible throughout the day, if you can. So I've created, added windows into bedrooms where there weren't before, just because I understand that, as a woman, I love great natural light. And I think you get more out of your home when you can really sit there and enjoy it, take in the natural light that's already there. I have really big windows where I move now, so as you can tell, natural light is really important to me. That also kind of leads into just, creating more space. So I have added in French doors into a home that led out to a really nice deck, because I felt like there wasn't enough space in the kitchen, and the kitchen needed just something else to give it that little bit of oomph. So I added in French doors. Use the question buttons. Okay. Okay. So adding in the door and then walking out to the deck, that's a nice element. People want to have space on the outside as well. So I always would say, include a deck, a nice little deck or a covered porch area, something that is hosting space. That is, a really big, important thing to a homeowner is, where am I going to have my friends? Where's my family going to come when they're here? Things like that. Oh, I have a question. So what brand of paint do I use when I flip? That is, I'm actually kind of trying to steer into a different direction. So right now I use Behr paint, just the normal paint they have in Home Depot, but I'm actually looking for some Black-owned paint businesses that I can start using, just because I know there are some out there. I've ran across a couple, but if anyone has any recommendations for that would be great. But right now, just Behr. It seems to work. So all of the paint brands that colors that I've mentioned are all Behr paints. And then also, when creating space, it's good to use light colors. So if you have, wooden, or just depending on what your theme is. So for an industrial theme, like where I live now, I did a lot of, trying to take away the wood, because I knew I had so much wood on the top. So I left all of that exposed. But for the baseboards, I left them white. So you have like a clean finish all the way up. I guess you can't really see that well. But that's another way of space, is not using dark colors. If you have a room, you don't want to make the room feel dark by putting a dark color on the wall where the windows are. You would want to put the dark color on the opposite wall, so that the sunlight would shine to it, and that it brightens up the room, even though you put a really dark color on the wall. That's something that, is really good to also kind of keep in mind. I also love adding in built-in shelving, because when I do take away space, I understand that I'm taking away, a closet. So, of course, I would like to give it back to the homeowner. So I will create, a little built-in bookshelf on the side, and maybe some shelving in the closets or something like that, that's also giving them space while I'm adding more space. A house has to be functional. It has to flow. It has to feel like, as a woman or just a person, that I need to have a place to put my items. I don't want to move into a home and say, where is the storage? Yes, it's lovely, it's bright, it's open, I see it all the time, but it's not functional. You could have the most beautiful home and have 2 small closets and that's it. So you want to make sure that there is, something for everyone kind of. So that's something I try to keep. I also love outdoor storage units. The built-in ones, the built ones that look kind of like the house, those are great. Those are, you can make them match the house. It actually ends up being really cute. You have like a miniature house in the back. I like doing that, but also just having storage. It's something I always, saw my mother wishing she had more storage and my dad wishing that we had more storage in our house growing up. So that's something I try to keep in mind all the time. And then now I can kind of talk about the current trends in the market. So as a real estate agent and also someone who is, working on my own projects, I see a lot of homes all the time. And I love kind of staying on top of trends and seeing what people are doing and, what trends are changing. So as everyone knows, we talk about kitchen cabinets first. White cabinets are great, but the leaning towards a pop of color or, not just doing the typical white cabinets is a really great thing. You can do, gray cabinets. My cabinets right now are actually white and gray. It's not really much to see because it's not done yet, but white and gray cabinets. Green cabinets. People love like royal blue cabinets just because it's something different, but then also keeping all of the fixtures and the countertops and the backsplashes. You want to keep those colors like white and gray. You want things to be bold, but not screaming at you. So I would do royal blue cabinets with a nice white quartz countertop. I could do a white backsplash and then add in a pop of color in the grout to kind of tie in the blue. And then, even add brass handles. Brass looks really great with navy blue as long as you just don't do too much. Kind of like those things coming together, I love. We also like mixed metals. So mixed metals is literally taking, brushed nickel, but then mixing it with, matte black faucets. That's something that we're seeing a lot more just because there's so many different elements that you can do when it comes to metal. I think that it's important not to make the whole house just one color. I like doing the kitchen different than the bathrooms if possible, or the other way around, because you don't need to have it all in one. So for the kitchen, I might do all nickel hardware and keep it, really light and silver, and, do white cabinets, and maybe have a pop of color for my backsplash. But then in the bathrooms, I'll go bold and I'll do some, like printed tiles and have a nice pattern on the floor, and then do a simple shower, or the other way around. It kind of just depends on how big the space is as well when it comes to laying those floor tiles. Is you want to be able to see the pattern on your floor so that you're actually getting, the bang for your buck that you paid for the tiles. I also like refinishing things, like I said earlier. So I've refinished doors on a 1950s style home. I refinished all the doors inside because it had all the original doors, all the original handles, and I just refinished them. And the owners who actually bought the house, they said the thing they loved the most in the house was that I left everything the way it was. And they're actually architects, so they just loved the charm that was in the house without having to make it so modern. Because there's things that they made back in the day, that they wouldn't even think of making now. So I definitely like to keep all of those in mind. Having, just keeping the different themes around. I think it also creates a lot of room for conversation when someone's walking through your home and it's like, okay, wow, like I love that you have this beautiful white kitchen. Oh, and wow, your bathrooms are amazing because you have this beautiful, looks like custom tile on the floor, and maybe you did like blue walls in the bathroom, or like a pop of yellow or something. Just keeping it different, but keeping it also in the same family. I spend a lot of time on Pinterest, and just, scourging the internet, going through magazines and seeing what exactly I like, and then spending a lot of time walking around and looking at paint samples and seeing what we're doing, what looks good together. There's also a lot of great places that you can actually get samples from for free, so you can take them with you onto a job site. So Floor and Decor, if you sign up for their Premier Access, they will give you like 2 samples of a tile for free just for being a member. And that's been super helpful to actually look at stuff in person rather than having to just do everything online. I'm a very in-person when it comes to my designing. I want to see, how everything's going to look. I'm very hands-on when it comes to that. But yeah, that is kind of a general overview of how I kind of get my process started, what I look for, what I go through, and yeah, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask them now. I'll give a couple moments for questions if anyone has any. I know a great carpenter. Oh, I would definitely love the information on the carpenter. I love custom shelves. Thank you. And you guys can follow me, Kierra Sells Georgia, on Instagram. My website is capitalkeysllc.com. You can look at our current projects there, kind of stay up to date with what we're doing, join our mailing list, have a couple more projects coming out before this year is over that I'm really excited to get started on. I'm actually starting my biggest project yet. It's going to be almost from the ground up. There's framing there. It's an historical neighborhood, but I will be spending a lot of time working on how to keep the charm of that house. Not because I want to, but because the city won't allow me to change anything. Let's see. Oh, what am I doing because of COVID? So it's been challenging because I do so many things in person. I've just been kind of getting used to changing my habits and trying to take advantage of all of the virtual options that are on the internet nowadays. So, virtual samples of looking at the tile in a place rather than having to be in the store so much. Also, when it comes to paint samples, I actually have a giant bare book of all their color swatches, so that keeps me so I don't have to go into the store that much. And kind of also just keeping a little repertoire of the things that I like, and I keep kind of a list, what are cool tones, what are warm tones, and then the fixtures that I pick out for each project that go under there, I try to keep them separated. Repetition is key. So if I have to use the same vanity, in a different project, I make sure that they have different colors or different countertop colors that I can pick from. So I'm kind of just picking from a Rolodex of stuff that I created myself, like a curated by Kierra list for my homes. So when it comes to adding art for the spaces, this is going to be on the new part of the interior design that I'm doing, and making a finished home. So creating literally the whole entire space from the ground up. Looking for artists, who want to create custom murals. I want to start having a custom wall. We'll say this wall behind me, having an artist coming in here and using their vision just to create something like that. I used to want to have my garage graffitied, and I think that when you allow another artist to do their work, as long as you give them kind of what you're looking for, there is endless things you can do. So, my art is the finished product of what the home looks like. How did all of this end up flowing together? Did I get the theme right? Did I, make sure that all of my colors popped enough? Or am I going to get attention? Am I going to be the house on the street that is just stunning? I use a lot of stuff like that. I also use some online programs to create, to kind of create drawings of what the house would be like if I painted it this color on the inside and the outside, and the trim work and things like that. So, if there's any artists who are looking into doing like a giant wall or a mural or something, definitely interested for that as well. Any other questions? Yes, I am glad that someone agrees with my mixed themes. Thank you. So for landscaping, I usually leave that, as of now, I left that to the homeowners because the yards that I've had for my homes haven't been too in dire need of a space. But I do know that, landscaping is an art itself. It like literally in art itself, figuring out what to do with a massive piece of grass or a dirt lot is something that I will start including when I get into the higher end projects that require, from curb to the end of the property line renovations where, I need a cabana outside or, a pool in the backyard. But so far, all of the backyards I've had have just been grass and had sheds in the back. But I do have a gardener who I use who cleans up all the properties and may plant like a couple small shrubs just for curb appeal, nothing too fancy. Let's see. So for the price range for my services, it varies. It will vary between the project manager part and also being the designer. As a project manager, I could take it from the ground up, but that would kind of just depend on my client's preference. Do they want to be involved in this? How much design input do they want to have? But usually it's usually around 15 to 20% of the budget. Hello. Anything else? All right. Well, I guess that's it. If anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or to ComfiArt, and definitely excited to be on this and talking to you guys about my version of art and what's important to me. There's so many ways that art's important. Expressing yourself however you deem necessary is very important. Having freedom of what you want to do, what you want to talk about, it works out great. So I feel like everyone should find art in whatever you do. Have your creative space, do whatever's important to you, and just go out there and create. That's all I can say. It will always work out. Art's in all of us. So thank you for this. Thank you for your time today. I hope this was informative. And like I said, if you have any questions, let me know. You can follow me, Kierra Sells Georgia, on Instagram. And my business website is capitalkeysllc.com. Thank you.